Jason.
And I'm Jordan.
And this is Not Part of the Plan.
And then you can sing the music.
I have a great voice. All right. Hello, everyone. We're coming to you from Montreal.
Yeah, not live. I can't say that. We are on location.
Ooh.
We are actually recording this in person together for the first time, which is kind of exciting. We're usually FaceTiming or Zooming each other and just looking at each other's screen, but now it's like, yeah, we could high five in the middle or whatever. Like, we're actually in person together, which is really nice to do that. It feels more natural for sure. But yeah, we're doing it from Montreal of all places. We both ended up here for a little bit. It's snowing outside. It's April 4th and it's snowing, but it's just good to be here with you. I know this is a trip that you had planned for a bit with some work stuff, and I'm just kind of tagging along, but do you want to explain why we're here and what you're doing here for work?
Yeah, this is actually the second time that I've been to Montreal. I was here last year from winning the same work trip. Throughout the year, one of the companies that I represent, which is Lecker Foods, we sell for Bell Canada. For those who don't know, Bell Canada produces Baby Bell products, Laughing Cow, Boris and cheese, a lot of cheese. And I make displays throughout the year and up against some other colleagues in Lecker Foods. And I've won most of them, and it's gotten me here. So the people at Bell wanted to show their appreciation, and yeah, they've taken us out to dinner this time and introduced us to a lot of their colleagues here in the Montreal office, and it's been great. And so, funny enough, when I mentioned it to Jordan, I say that, you're in front of me, it's weird. When I mentioned it to you,
yeah,
you were like, oh, maybe I'll tag along. And
right.
I was like, yeah, you should. And then I thought, I don't know if you will or not. And then as it got closer, I tried to suggest it again because my wife and our baby wouldn't be coming. And yeah, you seemed interested and you went for it.
Yeah, I mean, just go back. We're not getting any like sponsorship money for you shouting out like Bell Foods and Lecker.
No, absolutely not.
But we should try, I think. No, it's a great opportunity just to spend some time with you. You know, we don't live in the same town, so a free hotel room. How could I say no, right? But no, it was good just to be able to come and spend some time with you. And we got our other friend from Ottawa coming up, and can spend some time with him as well. So good chance for the three of us to spend some time together. I don't know the last time it was just the three of us hanging out, so that'll be a really good time, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to do this with you. And yeah, it's pretty special to me. You know, I feel like my time right now it feels so different than a regular year, of course, with me not working, and so I'm trying to use that time when I'm not working, knowing that eventually the time will come for me to go back to work. Yeah, I just want to take opportunities that come up and do a little bit of travel, spend the time with people that are important to me, and just invest a little bit in that. Like that's really good for me. It's healthy for me to do that. It's it's just a meaningful thing to do. So that's kind of why I jumped at the opportunity and flew all the way out here just to do this. So I've been thinking a lot about the whole, work thing and the right time to kind of get back into that. I've been a teacher for 10 years, and so this is the first year. It's been, right around a full year now that where I haven't been working, and so, that feels really strange to me not to be doing that for a year. That's such a huge part of my identity, was teaching. And so now not to be working for a while, it can, at times I feel a little bit lost with that, and I know I'm trying to fill it with some things that are important to me. I did sub a little bit, and I hope to do that more, to do the TOC thing at the school, and I'm coaching some soccer as well. I've coached for a long time, and that's always a joy to me. So I still have these things that I find meaningful that I'm doing, but it's different than the regular rhythm of work and the day in, day out routines that you get into. And I can see that that would be a good thing to do at times, but I'm just not ready to give up the flexibility I have right now to approach each day and fill each day with something a bit different, or fill a time with some travel or things like that to take off for a bit. And so, I don't think I'll be going back to work full-time next year either, like next school year. I think I'm going to take some more time and continue to do things like coach and volunteer a little bit, to do some of those activities to help fill the day and fill the weeks. But that way I can still take opportunities as they come and be flexible with that. So that's kind of part of what we wanted to talk about today. Jason, you, after going through your own cancer and your recovery, maybe you could just tell that story. Like, how long were you out of work for, and then what did it take for you to feel ready to go back into work, and how did that whole transition go?
Yeah, if we go back to, that'd be 2018, so almost 5 years ago. When I was diagnosed originally, it was very quick. Like, I got diagnosed, like I said in previous episode, diagnosed, went straight to the hospital 15 minutes later, and things just moved at a very fast rate. I was supposed to be doing my job the day prior, couldn't because I was just passing out or close to. So everything moved very fast, and my parents had to jump in really quickly to run the business, and they did, and I'm so very thankful for that. But as time went on, I didn't do any work, period. I didn't have the capacity to even write things down, really. There was, in between the first round and the second round of chemo, I did a little bit of work just to help my parents out for some phone calls because I was bored. I often was just sitting in this little suite and I didn't know what to do. But as time went on, I didn't really think about work at all. But as things progressed and I finished the third round of chemo, and then I was like just itching to get home and not be in Victoria any longer. And at this suite, it was not home. It was a free suite, so shout out to the people that let us stay there for months. But so when we finally finished round 3, and it was clear that there wasn't going to be a round 4, we gathered all our stuff, and then we rushed back. And the reason why we rushed back was because my wife Vivian was graduating from college, university, to be a nurse. So it was actually that weekend. So we rushed back really quick, and she had ceremonies. And so as things after that weekend, things started to set in a bit where I was home, but it did not feel like home. And it just created a whole new sense of problems, like just more problems. Like, I didn't know what to do with myself. I honestly spent 2 weeks doing nothing every single day. Like, I just laid on the ground in front of the heater, and I just didn't know what to do. I was completely lost. Like, if there was a feeling that I had, it was like complete loss. Like, I didn't know what to do. I was happy that I was home in a sense because it was more familiar, but then I was just like, what do I do now? Like, I was just off of chemo. Like, I was still very skinny. Like, I looked horrible. Like a prisoner of war might look like. It just looked bony. And so I was still not working. I just periodically didn't do much throughout the day, watched TV. But I got really bored fast. Just couldn't watch TV anymore. Yeah. I felt the drive to I need to get better. Like, I need to start walking and kind of get my strength back. Yeah. And start doing things. But that first initial couple of weeks were extremely difficult. And I'm sure I was in like a bit of a state of shock still. You know, it was so close to finishing chemo and not having to do more. But yeah, so that's a bit of a backstory of it. It wasn't until about a couple of months from like chemo, that the last round of chemo, that I started to kind of just go to work with one of my parents once a week. But it felt good. It gave me more purpose again. Like it just got me back to kind of what was familiar and a bit safe, you know, like I like routine. So, yeah. But
how long were you in Victoria for again? Like when you went there to do your chemo treatments? Was that like 2 months, 3 months, something like that?
Well, it was the beginning of April when I was diagnosed. And then I spent about 5 days in Nanaimo, and then we got sent up to Victoria, and then I think it was all the way till June. It was, I think, almost 2 months, or I think 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah.
But I didn't leave the hospital. I was in the hospital and didn't leave more than like a couple of times because I was very sick.
Yeah.
And they were, normally you could probably, if I was doing better initially and I probably could have done like outpatient chemotherapy, and like the cancer I had was, you know, like had I caught it way earlier, I probably would have been fine. Like I could have done outpatient in Nanaimo most likely too. But because I had to do the surgery to remove the testicle in the beginning, and then I had a problem with my kidney, they just didn't want to risk it. So they were just like, no, you have to stay. And it wasn't until about round 3 that they were like, we pushed. We were like, we need to get out of the hospital. Like, we can't be in here any longer. It was becoming too difficult for both of us. So they kind of let us in between rounds, or in between like the days, we could go home at night and then come back and do chemo and do that. Right. Which felt good. Like you could sleep in your own bed at the time, I could sleep next to Viv, and so, but
and then when you got back and you started to get, you said you were working like once a week with a parent and kind of get back into it. Did you feel like that was more the physical side that you needed to recover to be like to have energy to work, or was it the mental side of, or maybe both, right? But both of those I can see as being factors in getting back to work.
I'm sure both of those were factors, but I didn't really give credit to the mental side of that. It was more the physical. Like when I was in the hospital, I could barely walk with a walker. Yeah. Like it was either too much pain or just no energy, like insane. I had never felt what it would be like to barely be able to walk. And then so I focused more on on that side of things, which was kind of getting my strength back up. But it wasn't super easy in the beginning because I also had no taste. Right. I couldn't taste any of the food I was eating still, and it took weeks a month or 2 before my taste came back. So to anyone who's gone through chemotherapy and lost their taste, it is a horrible experience. You don't want to eat anything. Nothing tastes right. The consistency and the texture is off too. So it's like, I like food, and most people do too, right? Like you get used to eating specific food. So that was a big thing too. I wasn't putting on the weight as quickly, but as soon as my taste came back, it was the greatest day ever. I can just remember specific things about that because I still wasn't working and I didn't know what to do. So I ended up just taking little like driving trips to one of my accounts and getting a sandwich. And then one day it just came back, and then I got a Coke, and I was like, "This is the best day ever."
The first Coke with your taste back.
Oh man, and it tasted so good. And then I just kept doing that, like 3 days a week. I'd go to this deli, and get a sandwich and just watch some like Netflix and stuff. So it wasn't until about like December of that year where I really started to do more.
Just to tell a bit of your story and like the setting we're in right now, like Jason, you've always been this candy guy. Like you love candy. You worked at, wasn't there like a warehouse, like a candy warehouse you worked at?
I did, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Like,
all
what,
new
15
foods.
years ago or whatever?
Yeah, and yeah.
But just so that everyone else knows, you don't see this, but we literally have this huge tub of candy in front of us that the microphone that we're using is standing on top of. And so like just to paint that picture a little bit more, there's like that type of taste, you know, I can see that being this big moment of getting your taste back, and not just for candy, but for anything, of course. But yeah, I just thought I'd explain that, the setting we're in right here.
Well, yeah. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm big into sugary candy. I just love candy. 36, and I'm not slowing down anytime soon. I just enjoy it.
Yeah.
But you know, probably the reason why those milestones were so big to me, they felt like a milestone, is it was just another step towards feeling like normal again. Because when you don't have hair and you've lost weight and you can't, nothing tastes good, like you're in this weird state of like you're not yourself.
Yeah.
And it's horrible to look at, and I hated looking at myself. So when those things came back, like it was like they were big. The milestones came quickly in the very beginning. So if we fast forward to about January of the next year is when I started to work full time again.
Okay.
Which, looking back, was just a mistake. Like I did it because I felt that no one was putting pressure on me at all. Not my parents, not anyone, not Viv. But I put pressure on myself. I was like, they've been working the business. They need a break. They had their own business they were doing. So I wanted to get back as quickly as possible. But yeah, it was a big jump. And I hadn't even like cracked into like what was going on in my head mentally either.
Right.
So.
And by that time, was the energy like and your strength was coming back enough to do that? It was more, yeah, the mental side that you hadn't started to unpack, I guess. Hey.
The strength came back, and like I think anyone might say like in the first like probably 6 months, like you're hitting milestones quickly, and that was the case. So I was hitting those milestones quickly, but I would soon eventually like plateau. But I will say in the very beginning, I used to walk up. Well, you would know this street, Westwood Road. We both lived pretty close to this lake in Nanaimo, and I used to walk up it. In the very beginning, I could probably make it like, I don't know, 50 feet before I had to stop out of complete breath. So it took a long time, and I worked hard at it at the beginning, but I just had to go slow in my job. I had to go really slow, but I wish I had taken more time. And I think you gave me some of that advice too in the very beginning. I remember you saying, you know, take more time. Like, I'm fairly certain you were like, I wish me and Amy had taken a little bit more time to recover mentally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a balancing act. But at that point, it was still like very black and white. I hadn't really like started to unpack trauma or even bother thinking about cancer. But everything happens for, no, I was going to say everything happens for a reason, but I more meant, I think you're in a headspace at different times.
Yeah. You make the decision that you think is best in the moment.
That's more than I meant.
And only with, you know, the time can you look back and think, was that the right decision or not? Yeah. Yeah. Because
if someone had like really pushed me to like take on the mental side of things, I don't think I was in a really space for that. I think this was the stage I was at. I had to get back to work. I think it was like the first stage, and then so on and so on. It did take me a long time before I kind of dove into the trauma of cancer, but yeah. So
yeah, you brought up, you know, for Amy and I, because she had gone through cancer, like her cancer journey started only a few months before you, and when she first was diagnosed that previous fall, she right away stopped working, and we taught together at the same school. So I kept working, and she took the rest of the school year off. And then the next school year, she came back part-time. And then the school year after that, it was a bit more, but still not quite full-time. And then finally full-time another year, or maybe 2 more after that. But I think, yeah, I mean, in the moment, of course, you have no idea what's going to happen. And there's the attitude that you hear, I think, in a lot of, well, in songs out there. I know it's like this common theme about, there's that song, Live Like You Were Dying, or those things. There's that aspect to all of this about work, I think, that, or maybe not work specifically, but just our priorities. Like, what are we prioritizing in this short life that we have? And it's easy for me now, well, it's not easy, but it's different for me now to think about that question than it was even 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we thought, and we were told, there's a really good chance that Amy's cancer is gone forever. And so we wanted to get back into the normalcy. So going back into work, even though that was a huge step, especially for Amy, to go back into work. She wasn't quite sure if she even wanted to ever teach again, but she tried it. And actually, this year's grad class at the school was her first class that she taught when she came back from cancer. And if it wasn't for that class and the special group that they were, and they know this, I've told them this recently, but they made her want to keep teaching because they were such a great class to work with. Whereas if they had been a nice way to say brat, I don't know, if they had been brats, then they're not, so I can say that, but she might have decided to quit teaching. But it was such a powerful part of who she was. I'm glad she kept going with that. Now, if we knew how her story was going to come to the end here on Earth, no, we would not have kept working, right? Of course not. I feel like your priorities would shift so much if you knew, the time and day of when you might pass. But we didn't, and so there's no regrets there, right? We talked about this before she passed, there weren't any regrets with how we spent our time. And that is such a gift to me now, of course, having been able to talk with her about that, because I don't live here now feeling like, oh, I wish we had done this or this or this or this. Of course, there are things I wish we had been able to do together, but only because we needed more time to do them, not because we didn't choose to do. It's not that we chose not to do them in the moment that I wish, we should have. I don't know if that makes sense. I just, I'm thankful for that. And, but now, I got to try and figure out what the next, however long, what that looks like for me. What are my priorities here? Work has not been the priority for me to get back into it. I think for some people who go through this, it is. It's a meaningful thing for them to get back into doing. It gives them purpose and fulfillment. I can totally see that. There are times where I'm craving that, and something like coaching helps me with that part of it. But I think that there is a bit of this old school mentality about what a successful life is, where you have a good career and you stay in that career for your whole life. Our parents' generation or more, that was the way things were. You didn't, unless things happened, you didn't try and switch career paths. You picked one, you stuck to it. You had a productive life is this word I think about, as a member of society, are we each contributing our part to it, right? And there's that idea of productivity that exists still. And of course, success in life here is often judged by family and legacy that way, and these are all things that I'm looking at and I've lost that potential for at this moment in my life, and at least with the person that I wanted it to be with. And so I'm stuck thinking about all these priorities or like what success is, and none of it seems important to me anymore. It's like, no, I'm not, like that isn't how I'm going to judge my life if I have kids or if I have a good career until I'm 60 or whatever, or like all these things. That's, you know, and I might have said that in the past. I might have understood that in my head in the past, but until something like this happens, there's no way to really understand that fully. I think I wouldn't have the same perspective otherwise. And that's not me saying I'm thankful that I'm going through this. It just means it's hard for me to connect with what is often seen as that successful life in society anymore. So, and I think that's part of the reason I don't feel any pressure to just go back into work and to do that sort of normal thing. Like my life is not going to be normal, and I'm learning to understand that and learning to, I want to say accept. I don't know if I've accepted that or if I'll ever accept it, but I will live with it as best I can. I just, as you know, when you have to give up on your original plan of what life looks like, it's not going to be a quick process. And so I'm trying to be super kind and patient with that, and take those opportunities as they come to find ways to impact hearts. That is really what I think we're all called to do. And not to say that people living those normal lives aren't doing that. That's not me saying that at all. I just, for me, individually, where I am at, the only way to do that right now for me is to take time and not rush into things. So I have no idea what comes next, really. Like, I got kind of these plans-ish for the next few months, but yeah, next year, I don't know. It probably won't be full-time teaching. It's going to be some other things, but kind of take it as it comes, and at least then I can wait for the opportunity to arise that is going to be the right one, I hope. So, yeah.
And I mean, you're taking the time to heal too, right? Like, you know, you said you wanted to impact people and their hearts, but I mean, you do that to me all the time. Every time I talk to you, I feel impacted about our conversations in a more positive way. But you know, you have to heal, and I know you know that, and that's its own beast in itself.
Yeah, I'm not healed. You're right. I don't know if I'll ever be fully healed. I don't think anyone on earth.
That's what I was saying. You're taking the time to heal. More meant it like before, when we were talking at breakfast, we were talking like how often I've done this a lot, which is just sort of wrap it up. Like if you look at grief, you're looking at very linear, like in a straight line, you know, like it was bad and eventually got good, you know, and you end on the good. Well, I'll tell you, grief can stay with you for your entire life. And that's not to give less hope to you. I think that shows the impact of whether we've lost people or what we've gone through. It just shows the impact and how difficult it can be, or the love that you've had for those people that you have lost. And that's not, it doesn't just take it away, it doesn't take the grief away, but maybe it's just a reminder. Yeah, I loved that person, you know, and who knows what's next. And interestingly enough, probably back in, I don't even know, November or by December, we had been talking, and one day I was like, oh, you know, we should go for a walk or something. And you were like, oh yeah, like I'm actually leaving tomorrow. And I was like, leaving tomorrow? Like, where are you going? Like, this isn't a version I'm used to from Jordan. You know, to me, Jordan was planned, and you were always good at planning, right? Like, if we went on trips, like, you mapped it out. You were much more of a leader than I was over the years. So this version of you was so confusing.
Like the spontaneousness,
okay. Yes, 100%. And so I'm like, oh, I was saying to my wife, I'm like, oh, he's leaving tomorrow. And my wife's like, well, where? Like, what's he doing? And I was like, I don't think he knows, you know, he's just going for it. And again, like that was, you just took those opportunities when you could, and I have a lot of respect for that.
Yeah.
Because, if Amy was here, and if it was a bit of a different circumstance, but would she would probably tell you to take your time.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It was evident when she didn't go back to work right away. Like, she was taking her time, and she should.
Yeah. She probably would have wanted more time before going back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're right there, like, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to get better quickly. And like you said, to get back into society, be a member of society, a functioning member of society. Like, it's almost like ingrained in us.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I had to get back to work and just get back to normal life, because I think for me, I enjoy just going through the day like that. I enjoy my job.
Yeah.
I'd like
a lot of people, I think that's true.
Yeah.
The work isn't negative in that way. It's
No.
it's a meaningful thing that people find joy in. Yeah.
And I mean, like, I often think, with a lot of anxiety, I think about death often, and I think like, oh, I don't want to go early, but then I think I'm with the person I love, and of course I don't want to miss my son's life, but like those, just living life day to day, like those are some of the most important times in my life. Like these excursions, like Montreal, like they're amazing and they're fun, and it's an opportunity I don't usually get, especially with my two very good friends.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, the funnest opportunity is just living life, right? But yeah,
I wanted to go back. Oh, what were you saying? About like wanting to, the pressure to kind of re-enter and like kind of get back into that productivity state. And I would totally want to acknowledge, for some people who go through this, they have to, for survival, right? Like, they don't have alternative means to buy groceries. So if they don't go back to work, or, those sort of things, I have a support system that is going to care for me if it takes me some time to get back into it, which is totally a blessing. And it gives me the time and allows me to be patient. I don't take that for granted. I really don't. And I don't think anyone would hold that against me either. You know what I mean? Like, I wish for everybody that they had the freedom to choose whether it's good for them to be working or not after going through something like this. But some people don't have that freedom to choose. And so I just acknowledge that. And if that's you out there, like, I think that's so brave that you are carrying on, holding the grief and doing something that is so challenging to do, that maybe you wish you didn't have to right now. So if that's you, just know that we see you, and we would like to see you. If we don't, right, we acknowledge that that's true for some people. And I think maybe that's a good way to, just put out there too. We've got this email account that, as Jason and I have been talking more about this, we both realized, like, we love hearing stories. We love hearing feedback from other people. We both individually have had conversations with people in our life who have listened and who have just shared small ways that maybe they've been impacted or just connected with their own story. If you are feeling like you would just love to share your story with us, or that it would be meaningful for you to do that, you can email us at notpartoftheplanpodcast@gmail.com. And if you give us permission, maybe there'll be times where we can share your story as well, of grief or loss or trauma or just hope, or some things that you've been learning in your life too, or ways that your life hasn't gone according to plan. So we'll just throw that out there, and we'd love to hear from you. Yeah. Anything else we should do? We're headed to the Montreal Canadiens game tonight. Our friend's about to get here from Ottawa, so Jeff, drive safe in the snow. And but yeah, Jason, thanks for sharing more of your story with kind of get back into work and all that, how that worked for you. We'll do this again. I don't know when next time we'll get to do it in person, but it's been really good just to hang out with you again here together.
Yeah, appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah.
Might just have to fly up to Vernon sometime.
Yeah.
Take a trip up there.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks everyone for listening.
This has been Not Part of the Plan.